everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Wumi Ajayi. As you might have suspected from the title of this video, my husband and I, we celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary about 10 days ago, actually. So this is a 25th anniversary special edition. And in this edition, I've got a collection of lessons, nuggets, wisdom over the 25 years that I will be sharing with you. Some of them might sound familiar because a few of them, I've mentioned one way or another in my past videos. Some of them might sound like cliches, but it's because they are true. And I'm just going to get into it. So, the first thing I want to say is that a good marriage, a successful marriage, is not by luck. I had to learn that. The two people in the marriage, they need to be intentional. They need to be intentional. They need to make up their minds to make it work, even from the start. I think for us, one of the things that helped us was that, especially when things got tough, was that we had no plan B. It was a matter of we're stuck, we're yoked together. We're not going anywhere. So we have two choices. We either stay, make it work and be happy, or stay, keep struggling and be miserable. And so we choose the former. Let's make it work. Let's be happy. Let's do what we need to do to make this relationship work and to make sure that we're actually enjoying the relationship and we're not miserable. The second thing, which will sound familiar if you've been watching my videos, is that no man or woman is enough for marriage. Whether you've been married before or this is your first marriage, it's not about being enough for marriage. And I think the knowledge of this, I went into marriage thinking, oh, I'm ready, I'm prepared. Yes, and I'm thankful for the preparation that I had. But I got into marriage to realize that actually it's not about being man enough. How can you be man enough? How can you be woman enough? Is it because of age alone or maturity alone or things that you've learned before you got into marriage? It's not a function of any of those things. And I think that knowledge actually helps us to show grace to each other and to show grace to ourselves as well. Because when you realize that, look, I've not been married before, you've not been married before. And even if you have been married before, the knowledge or the experience of the previous marriage is not enough. If you bring it into the new marriage, that's why subsequent marriages have a greater rate of failure than first marriages. So if we have that knowledge, it will help us to free ourselves from unnecessary burden. It will help us to have compassion on our spouses as we keep trying to make our marriage work. And that leads me to the third point, that we shouldn't leave God out of our marriage. The Bible talks about a threefold cord not being easily broken. It's true. And it just means that a twofold cord is easily broken. God instituted marriage. God is the author of marriage. And that's one thing that's also helped us in our marriage. God is the one that can help us, that can actually teach us. And there's so many ways in which you can include God, make an habit of prayer, make an habit of going to church together, serving God together. When we have issues, we seek God's face, we pray about our issues together, and we read God's word, and so many other ways. Number 4 is that most of the challenges that we face in marriage is common to many. The Bible talks about the same temptation being common to all. And that knowledge, when I realized that, it actually freed me. What we're going through is not peculiar to us. Most marriages go through the same challenges. And it's not about thinking there's something wrong with my marriage. It's about thinking of how can we deal with this challenge? How can we deal with this problem so that it doesn't end up in a disaster? Number 5, marriage can bring the best and the worst out of us. We talk about the process of cleaving and how that generates it. Most people that get married because they want to live their lives with each other forever. But things along the line tend to go wrong. That means that people change their minds. So instead of letting marriage bring the worst out of us, our focus as couples should be how to help each other such that we thrive, such that we flourish, such that marriage brings the best out of us rather than the worst. Number six, we all need help beyond ourselves sometimes, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's actually a sign of strength rather than a sign of failure, and it's something that can help preserve our marriage. You need a coach, a mentor, a trusted mutual friend. And again, I've said this before, it's important that couples agree on who to go to, who you both trust, who you know will be impartial in helping you deal with your problems. We've had, a few occasions we've had to seek help, we've had to speak to a friend. We've had to, seek counsel, read marriage books, find help beyond ourselves to help us resolve our issues. Number seven, marriage is not 50-50. In fact, marriage is 100-100. The only difference is that the composition of each person's 100 will vary, will differ. So, for example, when it comes to maybe money, somebody's contribution might be 40% and the other person is 60%. When it comes to house chores, somebody's contribution might be 70, the other person is 30. When it comes to, child care, somebody's composition might be 20 and the other person is 80. But the most important thing is that we are not expecting that everything will be 50-50. You bring 50%, I bring 50%, you do 50, I do 50, because that is not how partnership works. It's important that in marriage partnership, everybody puts in their best. And this is where understanding becomes key. We have to understand how our own relationship is going to work. As long as we all make up our minds to put in our best, it will be 100% from each spouse. And there will be variation in what comprises the 100% that we both bring to the table. Number eight, we cannot change anyone unless they're willing to change. I mean, there were some things that as a woman, I went into marriage thinking I was going to change in my husband. But I soon realized that actually, unless he is willing to change, unless he actually sees those things, sees those areas as something that needs changing, then no change is going to happen, unfortunately. And if we all have a growth mindset, which is another point that I'm going to bring in, then sometimes some of these things will change as we go along. But there are some things that will never change. And we need to accept ourselves. We need acceptance is key for those things that will never change. For example, our personalities fundamentally will not change. We can work on the weaknesses of our personality, but it's not going to completely change. And so we need to accept ourselves, especially the small stuff. For the big stuff, it might not, it might be that we need to keep talking about it, communicating about them until we see changes. But we need to learn to accept the small stuff, the things that don't matter. And that's when they say, pick your battles. Some things that don't matter, we need to learn to accept them. Number nine, we must learn to love ourselves first before we can love another. The Bible says we should love your neighbor as yourself. But if we don't know how to love ourselves, how do we learn to love our neighbor? I had to learn that because, for example, if you're someone that is too critical of yourself, which I used to be, then you will be critical. You will be hard on other people as well. I had to become aware of what I was doing to my husband because I was doing it to myself as well. So it wasn't like I was just being mean to him. I had, I'm someone that was set very high on realistic expectations for myself. And so I ended up setting the same expectations for my husband, but they're not realistic and it was not being fair on him. And so when I talk about loving ourselves, it goes into different areas of our lives. How do you see yourself? How do you, if you have low self-esteem, you might struggle to respect your spouse, and so many other areas like that. So we need to be aware of how to love ourselves. Are you loving yourself? Because if you're not, then you will struggle to love your spouse. Number 10, the little things matter and we must not minimize them. And when I say little things, little habits, annoying habits, little irritations that, brings tension into a relationship. Your spouse doesn't like it, but you keep doing it. We're not making the effort to actually change for them. You're not making efforts for little gestures to show affection, to show that you love them. You're allowing little foxes, foxes of not giving them attention, spending all the time on your phone, little foxes of, reporting your spouses to your family, little foxes of being selfish with family fund and things like that. Those little things, they matter. And we need to be aware of them. We must not minimize them. We need to put attention on them. Number 11, an individual and joint growth mindset is essential for marriage. We must, as individuals, make up our minds that I want to be a better person just for me. Because if we have that mindset, then we end up being better people for our spouses as well. And as a couple, we need to have that mindset. Are we growing? Are we getting better? Are we understanding each other better? Are we learning to love each other better? If we don't have that mindset, we will not grow. And it is important that we aspire, we seek wisdom, seek knowledge, because that will help us to do better. We should aspire to do better as individuals and as a couple, because that will help the success of our marriage. It will help us to thrive. It will help us to grow. Number 12, if we put the same effort or even half the effort, some of us, that we put into our career, developing our career, into our marriages will thrive. A lot of us, we go to do courses, we go to do, we self teach ourselves, we read books, we go for courses and all that to improve our career, to make sure that we're up to date. But how much are we actually doing to grow our marriage? How much effort are we putting? And that's one thing that has actually helped us in our marriage. We right from early on, we will go for marriage conferences, we will go for marriage enrichment programs, we will read books and we'll put effort into it. And that has helped us. If we're expecting, I started off by saying that a good marriage is not by luck. If we expect that things will just work out, then we're heading for disaster. It won't just work out. We need to put effort into growing our marriage. We need to put effort into doing the things that we need to do to grow. Because when we talk about growth, when growth stops, then decay sets in. And if you're not growing, you're dying. It's as simple as that. And that leads me to the next point, complacency. Number 13, complacency is the enemy of marriage. Because, like I said, when growth stops, decay begins. So we must keep up the effort. The efforts that we put into showing love and affection to one another, prioritizing each other, speaking each other's love languages, doing the little things that helps, the little things that oils the wheel of our machine, the wheels of our marriage. We must not be complacent. It doesn't matter whether you're 25 years in marriage, 10 years in marriage, we need to keep that up. We cannot afford to be complacent. Number 14, familiarity can bring contempt, and that's something that we need to guide against in our marriage, because we see each other at our lowest point, we see each other, at a vulnerable state and all that. So we must guide against familiarity that brings contempt. Mutual respect is fundamental. We need to continually respect each other. We must not fall into the trap of contempt and disrespect to each other. Number 15, there is no perfect marriage. Outward appearances can be misleading. We must avoid comparison. There is no perfect marriage. What we see, and that's one of my videos that I talked about, real grass or astroturf, talked about the dangers of comparison. We must avoid it, because what you see on the surface, you are not to see what's happening, what's going on the inside. So if we think, oh, their marriage is so perfect, I wish they're married, and we start comparing, then we are heading for disaster. We must know that my marriage is not perfect, and it will not be. Your marriage is not perfect, and it will not be. So it's okay, to have issues. It's okay to have problems, as long as we're dealing with them, and as long as we're not complacent. There is no such thing as a perfect marriage. Number 16. This sounds like a cliche. What you appreciate, appreciate. It's true. We must be careful not to take each other for granted. We must guide against it. Some of the things that our spouses do, that we do for each other, the everyday things, because, oh, that's what we do. Sometimes we can start to take those things for granted. Oh, it's not going anywhere. It's here. It's stuck with me. And so we think we can, take each other for granted. We must guide against it. The more we appreciate each other, the more we are motivated to do more for each other, the more our spouses are motivated to do the things that they are doing. Number 17, love is a choice. There is the feeling of love, which is good, the butterflies in our stomach, and all the sweetness that comes with the feelings of love. Excellent, fantastic. But love in marriage is a choice that we have to make every day, because there are times that those butterflies will not fly. There are times that those butterflies, you will look for them, it will be as if they are dead. That's when love becomes a choice. We need to choose daily, irrespective of how we feel. I mean, earlier on in marriage, I my love for my husband was, I put a lot of emphasis on how I feel, or how it makes me feel, and on the feeling of love. And I found out that when I don't feel love, then it's like I don't feel like I love him. And I had to learn over the years to choose to love, even when I don't feel like it. It's good to feel loved. Nothing beats the feeling of love. And we should, as married couples, try to make sure that we make each other feel loved. But we also have to remember that love is a choice that we have to make daily. Number 18, our expectations must be continually modified as we go along. Sometimes we set expectations that are not realistic. And if we don't review those expectations, we will continue to feel disappointed in our spouses and in the marriage. And it will bring a feeling of, discontent and unhappiness. I remember, I got to a point that I realized that what I was actually expecting of my husband was, I was expecting my husband to be everything that my dad was and everything that my dad wasn't. In other words, I was expecting him to be perfect. And none of us is perfect. But if we don't sit back to review those expectations, then we will continue to live in disappointment and unhappiness, which is, which we can prevent if we review our expectations and we modify them as we go along. Number 19, we need each other. Marriage is a relationship of codependency, and we must not shy away from the fact that we need each other. I think I spoke about this in my last video. We need each other. We're meant to be better together as a couple, and we must make our spouses know that we need them. If we, I mean, I grew up learning to be, I grew up, learned to be independent very early on. I can do DIY, I can cook, I have so many skills that means that I can survive on my own. But I had to learn that If my husband doesn't feel needed, then it feels redundant. If I feel that, and if I keep thinking, oh, I can do it, I can leave it, then I will be suffering. I will be doing myself an injustice because God has given me someone to help me. God has given me someone to live life with. So God has given me someone to journey with. So if I don't use them, if I don't take that advantage, if I don't, take that opportunity, then I will be denying myself. So that's I had to learn to rely to learn to that I can actually rely on another. I can depend on another while they depend on me as well. So it's a relationship of interdependence. And that leads me to the next one, number 20. We can achieve more if we work in synergy. Working together, I've done a video on that as well. Working together as a team is crucial. Seeing each other as part of the same team. If we win, it's our win together. If we lose, it's our loss together. Because when we work together, we do achieve more. It's true. Number 21. Doing marriage as unto the Lord frees us from expecting reward from our spouses. Because let's be real about this. Sometimes, because the things that we do and all that, we expect our spouses to pay us. We expect them to appreciate us. We expect them to do the same for us and all that. But the Bible talks about doing everything that we do as unto the Lord. Humans cannot pay us. Humans will disappoint us. Our spouses will disappoint us. It is what it is. That is life. And at such times, it's important that we remember that even marriage, everything that we do in marriage, whether because we do them for our spouses or we do them for our children or whatever it is that we do them as unto the Lord. And it is God that will reward us. In fact, I don't even want my spouse to reward me, because what reward can man give me? But when God rewards us, we are assured of a fantastic reward. And that knowledge also frees us from expecting our spouses to be the one to pay us back. Number 22. Boundaries are essential in marriage. They keep us safe. And the earlier we establish those boundaries, the better for us in our marriages. Boundaries for us as a couple, boundaries for, that involves the third parties and all that. One of the boundaries that we set for our marriage is not to leave our bedroom, irrespective, go and sleep in another room, irrespective of how angry or unhappy you are. And I will put my hands up and say that I flaunt that. I've flaunt the boundaries a few times, yes. And my excuse was that I couldn't sleep because I was angry, and my husband was snoring beside me. So I thought, oh, I'm just going to leave the room, which he wasn't happy about. But he was able to pull me back on it, because those were the boundaries that we agreed before we got married, to say, you are not, it doesn't matter, you do not leave the bedroom to go and sleep in another room because you're angry. Boundaries are also essentials for, third parties, our friends, our in-laws and things. It's important that as a married couple, we put a united front. We speak as one. One thing that we're very good at doing is, somebody says, oh, I want this, or can you do this? We will always say, my husband will always say, oh, let me speak to my wife and get back to you. And I will say, let me speak to my husband and get back to you. Because that helps us to, it helps even the outsiders to know that you are one and you're putting up a united front as a couple. Number 23, children are a blessing, but they're not the sole purpose of marriage. They are a blessing. But it's important that we learn how to manage the impact of children on our relationship right from when they're born. Because the tendency that we have as parents is to ignore ourselves, ignore our relationship because of children. But sometimes when we do that, we might end up in a situation where, when the children don't need us anymore, or when the children have left home, there's nothing left of the relationship. So it's important that we manage the impact of children, looking after them, caring for them, providing for them, the impact that all that is having on our relationship. We mustn't neglect our relationship because of children. Number 24, our children and the unmarried people around us, we're actually role modeling marriage for them because they are watching us. We are indirectly teaching them how to do marriage, how to treat a man, how to treat a woman, roles in marriage, and all that, how husband and wife show affection to each other. And if we role model bad behavior to our children, we are inadvertently setting them up to fail because some children will not learn any better until they actually find themselves in marriage. Some will be lucky enough to learn differently, to know that, oh, actually, you can do marriage different from the way my parents did it. And so we need to know that children are watching, our children are watching, and we are teaching them how to do marriage. And the last thing that I'm going to say is that we need to remember that our marriages are beyond us. Every marriage has a purpose. And if we think that our marriage is just about us, then we will not be able to find out why we are in a marriage and what the purpose of that marriage is. And that brings me to the end. Like I always say, marriage is to be enjoyed, not to be endured. As I pray for continual bliss in my own marriage, I pray that you watching me, you continue to enjoy bliss, love, understanding, and all the blessings of marriage in Jesus' name. Until I see you again in my next video, take care and God bless. Bye.